Hello, you welcome to One Africa Mission with your brother Dobia Anzansi. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and share, pass your comments. One Africa Mission. Let us together organize ourselves to see the dream of our forefathers. A united Africa become reality. That is our mission. We are missionaries, and then our mission is to see a united Africa. That is all. So with that much I said, today we're going to Zambia, and then we're going to Zambia to mourn with our family in Zambia. One of our brother lost his life in Russia while fighting for the Russian army. He was a student, he was given a scholarship by the Zambian government to go and study in Russia, and then he ended up in prison, and then from the prison room to the graveyard. So from classroom to the prison room to the graveyard. So as we mourn with our family in Zambia, then we ask questions as to how did that happen? How did somebody who's supposed to be in a classroom, who went to Russia to study, to come back home and help build Africa, Mother Africa, end up being in prison? How did that happen? So let's see what they are saying. We're getting this from ABC News. And they said, Lusaka, Zambia, the body of a 23-year-old Zambian student who died while fighting for the Russian army in the war in Ukraine has been returned home. The body of Limikani Nyarenda, who was studying nuclear engineering in Russia before joining the military, arrived at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in Lusaka on Sunday. Although he had been a student, Limikani was convicted in April 2020 and sentenced to 9 years in prison. Why? Why was he convicted and sentenced to 9 years in prison? And how did he from prison room fighting for the Russian army? What training did they give him? What training did the Russian authorities, whoever took him to go fight for Russia in the useless Russian-Ukraine war, what training did they give him? So he was sentenced to prison for 9 years in prison. He was later pardoned through a special amnesty on condition that if he participated in the war and he was killed whilst fighting fighting in Russia. So you see what we keep talking about here in One Africa Mission. As Africans, until we realize that power, or until we are united and become powerful as African people, or as the entire continent of Africa, until we are united, I am telling you, everybody will continue to use Africa and Africans anyhow anyhow they want. You see, anybody will continue to use us anyhow they want, because this thing that they did to our brother, a 23-year-old promising young man, this thing that they did to him, they couldn't have done the same thing to a Chinese, no matter what. They couldn't have done the same thing to a Chinese student, no matter what he did in Russia, sentenced to prison and end up being given given amnesty in exchange to go fight for Russia. Somebody that you put in prison, how did he become? What kind of training do you give to him to go fight for a war that got nothing to do with him? And this is not the first time we are fighting in wars that got nothing to do with us as African people. In the so-called First and Second World War, when European tribes, because we as African people never know what is First and Second World War. This was European tribes fighting among themselves, and they dragged African people to go fight, as Bob Marley said, buffalo soldiers. When are we going to stand up as African people to stop these people from using us as buffalo soldiers? Buffalo soldiers, so that you go to a war, Bob Marley said it, you go to fight in a war that you have no knowledge about. You have no knowledge about why you are fighting and who you are fighting. You've just been dragged in to go and fight. And the sad thing is, even when our forefathers went and fight the Japanese, and in the side of the British, through this so-called Commonwealth, I don't know what is common about the world of Britain and that of our countries. What is common about the world of Britain and that of Nigeria? What is common about the world of Britain and that of all the African soldiers who went and fought to defend the crown of Britain? And then what's the name? Senegalese soldiers went and fight for France in defense of France. And then after they returned back home, demanding for a good and better retirement from the French authorities. What did they do to them? They killed 300 of them. Just you went and fought in a war that got nothing to do with you. The war has absolutely nothing to do with you. You don't know why you are fighting. You don't know why they're telling you Japanese are your enemies. Are they really your enemies? No. And the sad thing is, even at that particular time, they were still colonizing us. How did this, why? We were still under colonization. So you are oppressing me at home, but taking me to go fight in a war for your freedom. And after we returned back home, our fathers returned back home, asking for a better wages, because they went and fought, and they saw the treatment that the French soldiers were receiving from the government. They asked for a little of that. What did they do? They killed them, 300 of them, and the one left, those that was left, what did they do to them? They sent them to prison. Somebody who went and fight for your freedom, you end up paying him like this. And as we keep saying, it will continue. It is never going to stop until Africa stand up on her feet. And how do we do that? By becoming a united front. If we are united, Russia wouldn't have done this to us, to our brother. Russia did it because Russia know that there will not be any consequence, whatever the outcome may be. There will not be any consequence. Nobody will not question Russia as to why you did that to him. That is what they believe. Because as I said, Russia could not have done the same thing to a Chinese. They couldn't have done the same thing to a Chinese citizen living in Russia, a student. They couldn't have done the same thing to an Indian living in Russia. They dare not even do the same thing to an American citizen. But Americans are doing that to us as African people. Everybody. Why? Because everybody believes that the life of an African worth nothing. Our life worth nothing. So anybody can do anything they want. Because if there were be penalty or consequence, if Russia know there would be a consequence, they wouldn't have done what they did to our brother. It's so painful that a young man, 23-year-old, who's supposed to be in a classroom, end up in a battlefield, fighting for a country in a war that got nothing to do with him. But as I said, what happened? Even the body returning back home, no Russian official followed the body. They had to put the Zambia ambassador to Russia to follow the body to back home. Why? And did we summon the Russian ambassador to come explain to us as to why they did that to our brother, our citizen? No, because we don't have the power to do it, and Russia know that. That's why they did that to him. If they know that there will be a consequence, they dare not. They couldn't have even do that. But Africa is weak. Africa is not strong. So anybody can do whatever. It's so annoying to see people treating us like this. And they didn't start it today. It has been going on like this for how long, we don't know. And the question we are asking is, how many African students are in the battlefield? How many African students are in the battlefield? Because as long as they could do this to Mr. Nyarenda, I'm sure many African citizens are there. And it's so pretty and pathetic that when their war with NATO, because this is a war between Russia and NATO. This is a war between Russia and America. When their war started, we saw Africans in Nigeria ready to go join. You see, sometimes we have to put a little bit patriotism on our continent. We heard people saying they are ready to go. They would rather go and die somewhere rather whilst at your backyard. In Nigeria, we have insecurity. We have like Boko Haram terrorists attacking us. That one, you are not ready to defend your own motherland. We saw people saying they are more than ready. Why? Why all this self-hate? They are more than ready to go join the Russians. They are more than ready to go join the Ukrainians. And no matter how it is, they will prefer to go there, go die over there than to continue to live in Nigeria. What makes you think that Nigeria is hell? When are we going to wake up? And the time is now. That's what we keep saying. That's what we keep calling the youth of Africa. Let us together come bring out our ideas as to what can we do to see a united Africa, because that is the only way we can bring an end to all this. If not, if we don't push for a united Africa as our ancestors saw the need for that, if we don't push to see it realized, then 100, 200 years from now, what we are talking about today, nations will continue to use the citizens of Africa just as they are doing to us today. They'll continue to do that because, as we said, the First and Second World War, we were not there. But our forefathers were being forced to go and fight for countries that has no respect for them. All these countries that our forefathers went and fought against didn't have any problem with them. Japan didn't have any problem with Africa. Germany didn't have